5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. I know. You thought, is it coming back? Is it coming back? Is it going to have to be canceled like Family Guy and then it blows up? Yeah, imagine this old Look Who's Chalking episodes blow up years later, forcing the networks that don't exist to bring it back. But here's Look Who's Chalking. We're in it for one reason, and it's the love of the game. We shopped it around. We had some interest, but they said, Andy, you're going to have to dial it back a bit, and I refuse to do such things. Now, none of that's true. We actually just really enjoyed making the show. I know some of you guys enjoy it, so we are going to commit to it. We're going to be maybe a little more casual because we're going to try to record it early so you get it out there. And but we will be back for this full season unless I get very disinterested, which I don't think will happen, and then it won't be. But anyway, Gary, how is it going? Hope your summer was well. How you doing over there?
I'm good, man. I'm very happy to be back. I can't believe we are freaking a day away from the first NFL game. Probably by the time you're hearing this, it will have already happened between the Rams and the Bills. And I'm just, man, I'm pumped. I'm doing a ton of work for football. I've been drafting best ball teams all summer. You know, had my honeymoon this summer, so I got away for a while in France and Spain.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But yeah, man, everything's good. Very
wait,
excited
didn't you go on a T. Higgins? What happened to the T. Higgins honeymoon? You remember that?
Oh, yeah. So we went on a mini moon to Colombia. Yeah, so we did do the T. Higgins honeymoon. What was the joke there? How did we connect T. Higgins to Colombia?
Okay, so let's so T. Higgins was a Ponzi scheme.
Right.
Then it was Narcos.
Yeah.
Oh, I said in the show Narcos, they tried to get out of the cocaine industry and into the legitimate businesses so that they could avoid being arrested once the cops arrested the Pablo Escobar's cartel and focused on the second cartel. So we said T. Higgins was in that process of turning into a drug cartel, into a legitimate business when he blew up. I cannot believe I remember that.
That's unbelievable. And that's exactly what happened because he was pretty freaking dominant in the second half of the season when the production started catching up to the target share. So,
and that's why this show is back. I care so much that I even remember on a whim T. Higgins Ponzi scheme references.
So we did the mini moon right after the wedding, and then we did the big 3-week honeymoon in Europe during July. So it was really good. Or end of June into July. It was really great. But, I
think you hit me up. I think you said I would love Portugal for some reason.
Yeah. Oh, I did go to Portugal also this summer, too, for a bachelor party. So I've been all over the place.
My God, this guy. He
Portugal
wins the
was great.
Millionaire. He's getting married. He's got 2 honeymoons, a T. Higgins honeymoon, going on bachelor parties in Portugal, telling me I would like it. Who's got it better than him? Look, he's coming to you live from the back of the White House right now. I mean, who's got it better than him? Nobody.
Man. Yeah.
Nobody. Well, maybe you guys will have it better than him once you have your week 1 lineups that I'm probably going to be able to provide minimal help with. Yep. But we're going to do our best here. I think maybe we should still look at some of those high impact games. And Gary, if you can be my guy who looks things up on the computer while I talk about them.
I got it. I got you.
Yeah, my handyman.
Absolutely.
Because the one thing that I did notice, this was one of my theories. Obviously, guys, here you get conspiracy theories in terms of fantasy. Relax, take it easy. I'm not bringing out the big ones. We keep that for the living room conversations. But my fantasy conspiracies, I told you about how there's a non-ruckus factor at 1 o'clock. People are a little bit tired. They woke up a little bit early. They had to show up at the field earlier. And then as you move to the night game, it's always higher scoring events. It's a raucous environment. People have been drinking in the Gillette parking lot all day long. Well, when I look at this slate, it seems like the NFL curtailed those higher scoring games to be at 4 o'clock. And something tells me that the Millionaire winner and the Power Sweep winner, remember, I want to win the Power Sweep over the Millionaire just out of principle because I've played that damn thing so much. So I think the Power Sweep winner, the majority of their lineups coming out of these 4 o'clock games. You seeing that slate, and can you tell what I'm talking about?
Yeah, definitely can. I mean, you got a bunch of great games there. Green Bay, Minnesota. And, we're expecting Minnesota's passing offense to be something special this year or something new under Kevin O'Connell, right? And then obviously you have KC, Arizona, which is one of the bigger ones of the week. And then on top of that, you got one of those premier AFC West matchups with Vegas, Chargers, and let's not completely write off the Giants in there too, because they're so cheap. In their 4:00 game too against the Titans.
Are we really going for deals like that already? We're going for I better not see Sterling Shepard in your lineup. Come on.
No, I can't do an 8-month recovery Achilles tear victim in week 1 in my lineup. But
you know what this week is, right? This is Sammy Watkins week.
Oh, baby, absolutely is. Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows that. I saw a tweet, and I'm sorry, buddy, can't credit you because I don't know who you are. I can't remember. But this week's Sammy Watkins, this week's week 1 Sammy Watkins is Sammy Watkins, something like that.
Yeah, it's very true, though. I mean, first of all, Rodgers with rookie receivers, we know he doesn't trust them at all. That's going to be a rotating carousel. Sammy Watkins has a good 4 weeks before he either becomes hurt, irrelevant, or both. We're going to have a quarter of a season where Sammy Watkins is going to be fantasy relevant for sure.
This episode's going to be weird because we've been off season, so I think we're maybe going to have to kind of mix in season-long takes as well, just as they come, but just as you say names like that. I just want to say something. I hate the A.J. Dillons of the world in fantasy this year after seeing how Aaron Rodgers plays when Davante Adams isn't in games and the way he looked in that San Francisco game when he didn't trust anybody else. It was all Aaron Jones, all Davante Adams, and Aaron Jones might be his favorite receiver this year. So unless the Packers have leads in games, I don't think you can rely on A.J. Dillon. Random rant. Some people who piss me off, I have to kind of quickly bring up to get it off my chest. And I think people trying to devalue Aaron Jones should just go the opposite way on the escalator. Like when you're going to heaven and I'm going to hell and we see each other quick. That's what I think has to happen with those two's perceptions. I don't want to say values, but perceptions.
Yeah, my response to that is, why are you anti-Semitic, Andy? A.J. Dillon just came out.
Oh my God, you just posted about
that.
What are the odds of that?
A very rare sighting, a Jewish black man, and it's cool that he was coming out and talking about it. I do think the ADP on AJ Dillon's gotten out of control, right? So he was like going 60 overall in underdog best ball drafts for most of the summer. He's up to like 50 overall. I mean, I like the guy a lot, and I think there's room for both of them to be productive, but that price tag with Aaron Jones still there is very, very high. If I'm going to go with the second member of a backfield, I much prefer the larger gaps like the Michael Carters, the Darrell Hendersons, where we have a big gap between 1A and 1B. Even Tony Pollard, where you get him 4 rounds after Zeke. I prefer those kind of guys than, a 3-round gap at this point between
random rant. But you know what? At least we can parlay that into some DFS. Why don't we start? This is going to be random, ring around the Rosie. Why don't we start with that game? Because it's funny. You kind of mentioned that as one of the higher scoring games. But correct me if I'm wrong. This Packers team, they have one of the top 5 defenses in the league. They're probably going to lean on their running game a little bit more. And I know there's hype about the offense over there in Minnesota and the new system that they have going there. But are we going to, I think my prediction out of those high scoring 4s, I actually didn't have this one. This wasn't one of the ones I was talking about. Do you have faith in some players in this game?
Yeah, I do. I mean, so it's an over-under of 47. So middle of the pack this week, upper middle of the pack, but tight spread. So if they can keep it close and they can start airing it out a little bit, it depends who dictates the pace, right? We talk about this a lot, but Kevin O'Connell's going to want to come out and show his new scheme early. I mean, he's a straight disciple of Sean McVay. That's why all the Justin Jefferson hype is so exciting this year, right? To step up into that Cooper Kupp role in his 3rd year, which is really usually a huge breakout year for NFL receivers. So I think that the Vikings want to play fast pace, really up in the passing game. But as you mentioned, the Packers might have the best overall defense in the league. So it's going to kind of be a who wins out here. But I do think it's going to be picked on a little bit less than some of these other games. So I think it makes it interesting for week 1. Your boy Aaron Jones, I think, is a really good value at 6,700 on DraftKings. I mean, for his ceiling there, that's a nice price.
My prediction is every single game that the Packers may trail, unless they have a lead, those A.J. Dillon people we're going to regret everything. Because like I said, he trusts Aaron Jones so much as a receiver. If he's in these tight games, he's going to want him in there.
Yeah.
He just is. But that's just a kind of prediction. I think if you're a Dalvin Cook guy, I'm always scared 40% of the season in or onward after that, because I just think this guy, every tackle, he's going to come up hobbled. So if you are a Dalvin Cook guy, this could be a good week for you. I know he'll always probably have a place in your heart again when he plays the Packers from your Millionaire week. I remember that when he went off. And Week 1 at home, a healthy Dalvin Cook. I don't know, but then again, I guess going after that Packers defense. And I do believe Sammy Watkins will have his fair share.
Yeah, no.
It is. I'm not even kidding.
No, he will. I mean, he really is going to. So, I was writing a cheap wide receiver volume article for Establish the Run earlier today. And they, our criteria there has to be under 5K on DraftKings and has to be projected for 5 or more targets. So actually none of the Packers guys hit the criteria because none of them are projected for 5 or more targets because they're all it's just so spread around, ring around the Rosie. But why ring around the Rosie? I guess it's
I put it in your head. I I planted the seed.
Yeah. So anyway, but you got Romeo Doubs at 3K.
2 ring around the Rosies in one. I haven't said that in 13 years.
Maybe longer for me. Yeah, unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, they got Romeo Doubs, who was the.
This is how interrogations work, by the way. This is how cops get people to admit that they did. They plant a ring around the Rosie, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I did it, ring around the Rosie. You start planting terms in people's head, they'll agree to anything.
Yep. So Dobbs is minimum. Actually, breaking news. Into look who's talking. Alan Lazard held out of practice, undisclosed. Not good on the Wednesday before the first game. It sounds like somebody.
Well, he's going back over to work at Area 51.
Yeah.
so you guys out there will know that.
Yeah. So it's not looking great for him. So then all these guys would be eligible for that kind of cheap wide receiver volume. You got Sammy Watkins 4,700, Romeo Doubs 3K. Freaking crusty Randall Cobb. I think he's going to lead this team in targets, especially if Lazard is out. He's 3,400. Vikings were bad against the pass last year, especially for fantasy purposes. I think they'll be better this year, but these are all interesting names, I think, that you could throw in your pool.
Yeah. How about we hit a rather confusing one if you actually think about it. When you see it on paper, you go, oh my God, this is going to be wild. You have the Chiefs going over to Arizona. And I'll just give a quick 1, 2, 3 about, certain things in that game. You're going to have Kyler Murray without DeAndre Hopkins. First game with Marquise Brown. On the other side, we're finally going to see what Kansas City is like. And I know they've played games without Hill in the past, but a permanent, removal of Hill and then Juju Smith-Schuster, what kind of connection they can have? He missed a big chunk of training camp in the preseason. Scanling obviously should be a good deep threat for someone like Mahomes, but we don't know. Is it going to be as pass heavy? Is Hilaire finally going to have a decent year? And then on the other side, Kyler Murray looked like garbage at the end of the year. And without Hopkins there, what's that going to be like? I don't know. This game could be weird. One of your range of outcomes games, it looks like, oh, this is going to be wild. This one might be a sneaky medium. I'm not willing to say low scoring, but it might be a sneaky mid-level game in terms of scoring.
Yeah, I think you made great points. 53.5 over under. This game actually opened at -4 for the Chiefs. I think it's been shot up to 6 or 6.5 in some places. And that's not by public money. My understanding, that's by sharp, big money that are putting their money on the Chiefs. So I think there's a potential blowout here with all the Arizona stuff. KC's at home, right? So I think,
No, I think Arizona's
at
home.
You're right. Arizona's at home. I would not bank on the blowout, and I think early season Kyler Murray's great, as you mentioned. It's as he gets banged up down the stretch that he really worrisome. So last year, after 5 or 6 weeks, we were talking about him as an MVP candidate, assuming he's fresh.
Best fantasy player of all time. They were saying that was literally said about him. He's the best fantasy player.
I like early season Kyler Murray, so I'll be playing a good amount of him. But I think. The thing with the Chiefs for DFS purposes, I think double stacks are going to be viable all the time, right? For Mahomes, the question is figuring out who the heck are you doing it with, right? Obviously, Kelsey seems like a safe option there. Juju, I think, is by far the safest of those 4 main wide receivers. He's been operating as the number 1 in camp. I think he's got a chance to go back to that second year of his career where he had the 100+ catches in Pittsburgh. But, after that, it's really a crapshoot with Hartman and MVS. I don't think Sky Moore is going to be a thing until a little bit later on in the season. Seems like he's a little buried right now. Hartman's the veteran there. They want to give him the opportunity to earn that role. So, if you're an MME player like me, I would just be mixing and matching these combinations. But, it's a little bit of a crapshoot here. MVS and Hartman are both cheap, though, and make for interesting options in week 1.
Okay, so because of some technical difficulties, hey, look, it's week 1, and we were in flux throughout the summer, so we're dealing with some technical difficulties. We're going to run a 2-minute drill in 8 minutes. We're going to run 4 2-minute drills, and we're basically going to give you some of the stuff we like. And I'm going to give you my men's warehouse. Gary might have to pull one out of his ass because this is my men's warehouse for the year and my men's warehouse for the week. But I wanted to just talk about that last 4 o'clock game that has a lot of players that I'm going to be using week 1, that Chargers-Raiders game. And how are you looking at it? The way I'm going to attack this, I like how I ask a question and give you my answer. I'm going to use the regular guy opposite. I know what the regular guy's going to do. The regular guy's going to get Adams in there. The regular guy's going to play Keenan Allen like he always, like the regular guy might go Herbert, Allen, and then Devontae Adams on the other side. And then I'll see you next week when I have $0. I'm probably going to go Carr with 2 guys. I'm way down on Adams this year because you know how I feel about Derek Carr. He'll throw outside the numbers when it's his last possible option. And Devontae Adams is so good, he'll have an okay year, but he's going to pull miles of coverage away from Renfrow and Waller. So I'm going to be taking Waller and Renfrow a ton this week. And then on the other side, I remember how those Chargers lovers go. They always leave Mike Williams alone. They refuse to touch Mike Williams. So I'm looking at a probable Carr with Renfrow and Waller with Mike Williams going the other way, trying to steal the point. Remember that? My side door? I want to steal points out the side door of that game and put them in my trunk.
So one thing to keep in mind for week 1, the Millionaire Maker on DraftKings. There's a $100 Millionaire Maker and there's a $5 Millionaire Maker. They do that for week 1. They want to get everyone involved. That contest is 1,119,451 people. That is insane. Even if there's overlay, we're looking at over almost 1 million people in this contest. You have to get really weird here. So I like where you're getting with the weird combinations. This is actually a good game to attack because early ownership stuff with the Chargers is not very high. It's because the pricing's pretty efficient compared to the rest of the market, right? There's all these cheap players on this slate. So Keenan Allen 7K, Mike Williams 6.6K, Herbert 7, whatever. All these guys, at least right now, early returns, not projecting for too much.
And just a reminder, this is the week. I always used to say before they added an extra week to the season, there's 2 carnival weeks. The last week and week 1 is actually number 2 because it's the only week throughout the year you have 1 month of pricing that's been around. All these people are getting shot in the legs like Plaxico Burress. People are being cut from teams, and then people are being promoted to running back that they were priced before training camp even started. I read something that said Damian Williams is the secret starter from Atlanta. This guy, no one knew he was in the league. No fantasy pundits. No, it's why fantasy pundits are mostly a scam. You didn't hear that here, but no one heard about this. He's like a running back now, and I don't know.
Yeah, so that's all to say in my view that the way I would be approaching these, especially if you're playing the super large field stuff, is not those chalk combinations, not the Herbert to Keenan with Devontae run back. I would do weird stuff, skiddy stacks, double bring backs, that kind of crap that the rest of the field does not do because they just love the doubles with the bring back. This is the week to get weird and unique. It's always like that in big tournaments. This week specifically because of how big these tournaments are, because of how inefficient the pricing is. That all makes a ton of sense to me. So I'd be doing weird stuff like that. Even stuff that I would almost never do, which is play Adams and Waller together, stuff like that. I would consider it in this week because of how weird it is. So, I think that's the way to do it. A skinny stack with the Chargers with throw Josh Palmer in your pool, as the third receiver there in Chargers in the super large field. So I like this game. I want to pick on it. I think Eckler's a really good play. We didn't have our Josh Jacobs, Antonio Gibson talk this year, which I'm just out on both of them this year.
We'll get to it next. We'll get to that one, but keep that back in your mind for next. There's one guy who I want you to check his early potential ownership percentage. I will put everything I have on this guy, which it's not breaking the bank even if I lose this, but I would put full reputation on Elijah Mitchell. He's my men's warehouse pick of the week, men's warehouse pick of the year. And if you can be kind enough to tell me, away at Chicago usually would scare people. There's a fake narrative going around about the Niners that you can't trust. This is not previous running back by committee. If you watch games last year, he was a workhorse, 25, 26, 26. I can't reiterate this anymore. I don't see anybody posting about him, and it's why, I have a little distrust of the fantasy community because am I the only one who saw this? Am I the only one who watched the playoffs, the end of the year? There is no Mostert. There's no Matt Breida. It's a clear number 2 in Jeff Wilson. They cut Trey Sermon. It's all about Mitchell, and I'll be playing him this week along with some of those weird Raiders.
Yeah, similar argument can be made for James Conner, right? Like just not, he's going a round and a half for 2 rounds before, but, has the complete job to himself they're both equally injury prone. And that's my biggest concern with both those guys. Elijah Mitchell gets injured a lot, but I love the role. And I think he's not getting talked about enough.
Shanahan offense,
right.
Like that's the other thing too. Like the running with Trey Lance opening up more holes.
Absolutely. Guys that, I guess let's just talk macro, guys that I'm really into in week 1 and this year in general. I think Saquon's in for a huge year, contract year. He's as healthy as he's ever been. Supposedly, they both Saquon and the coaching staff have every reason to run him into the ground, right? Saquon needs to prove that he can go out and get another contract. He's got everything to his against him to his back from the last couple of years. The coaching staff needs him to win games. I think the usage will be there. He's one of the few 80-20, even 85-15 split guys in the entire league. 1-2, first, second, third down and goal line work. I love Saquon this year. I'd be taking him, honestly, anywhere from 9th overall on in your regular drafts, underdog drafts. So I think he's a great pick. Mid-round guys that I'm interested in. I think the hate on Jalen Waddle has gone too far. I mean, this is a guy that caught 103 balls or something like that last year. I don't think Tyreek Hill coming in hurts him necessarily. If anything, it might open him up a little bit. I think there's room for both guys to be really successful there. Curious your take on the Bills guys. Are you in on the Gabe Davis hype?
I tend to stay away. I'd rather not invest on a belief. I'd rather see it, and then if I really like it that much, I'll go get it the next year. Yeah. I always struggle investing in people who aren't the proven commodities when there are still proving commodities on the board. It's just kind of the way I am. And since we are going to run out of time because we didn't calculate this, I'm just going to end with my lineup, which is going to do nothing for you people because you probably want to hear Gary's. But I do have a lineup for you. And here's what I got. I got Carr, like I said, going to Hunter, Renfrow, and Waller with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. So double stack, double bring back, and it's only because I was able to fit him in. Then I got Christian McCaffrey as my running back with my Men's Warehouse pick of the week in Elijah Mitchell. And it's how did I afford all this? With the worst defense with the Lions going against the Eagles. And Dotson, the number 2 every down receiver, theoretically, in Washington for 3,400. That's my quick wiggly lineup. And just in case this runs out, I just want to say we will be back a little longer next week. We had to work the kinks out right now. We appreciate everything. Did you like my lineup, Gary? Give me that quick, that gladiator.
I'll go Sammy Watkins, Men's Warehouse pick of the week. Let's go.
All right, everyone. Thank you for coming back. We'll be back to you next week. Longer episode. We'll go into more games. Appreciate it. Had to iron out the wrinkles here. Hopefully we did that. We'll be back to you next week. Talk to you then.
Take care, everybody.